They lost to Stanford.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, even when your team suffers an embarrassing loss. At home, off a bye week, to the team that was picked to finish last in your conference. That's right. Syracuse football on ESPN, national television, Friday Night Lights. They lose to Stanford 26-24. We're going to get into why they lost, what happened. We'll talk a little bit about Kyle McCord because I'm sure Ohio State fans might be having their victory lap for this one, even though it really wasn't on him for the most part, aside from one play. And the road ahead for Syracuse. What's going on? Is the season over, right? Those are some questions that we can ask here on tonight's podcast or this morning if I post it for Saturday morning. But honestly, it doesn't make a difference. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. First and foremost, congratulations to Stanford. They earned that win, and they were the better team. Period. On this particular night, on Friday night, September 20th, Stanford football went into Syracuse's house, and they played a better game. They were the better football team from start to finish. Now, you can probably tell from my tone that I am pissed off. I'm angry. This is not an acceptable loss for Syracuse, and this is primarily on coaching. I have been praising Fran Brown and his staff since the start of the season because I thought in the Ohio game, they showed excellent clock management skills, and they dealt with a little bit of adversity in that game, and they responded, and they won that game pretty easily. So I praise the coaching staff. And then after the week 2 win over a ranked Georgia Tech team at home as an underdog, they solved the run defense issue, apparently, for at least 1 week. They solved the run defense for a week, moving Fidel Diggs to linebacker, essentially, playing a 3-3-5 against Georgia Tech and their powerful run game that they have when they average nearly 200 yards per game on the ground. And this coaching staff did it. They made those adjustments. And Syracuse pulled off that upset in large part because of coaching. But you know what? They lost tonight primarily because of coaching. We'll get into some of the players later on. But I'm telling you, this was not 100%. If we were to give a blame pie and play the blame game, it's on coaching. Let's go to the end of the game. The very end. It's 4th and 9 inside Syracuse territory. There's 37 seconds left. Stanford's at the 45-yard line. One play is all you need. Syracuse did not play a good game. We're going to talk about the start of the game too. But after all that, they were one play away from winning this game. If they just get a stop on 4th and 9. Now, Stanford calls timeout before the play. They want to talk things over. What do you think Stanford is going to try to do? They're going to try to do one of two things. They're either going to use Ashton Daniels. They're going to use his mobility that he has because he's scrambled all over this Syracuse defense. Or they're going to throw it to their one killer weapon on offense, Elic Ayomanor, the wide receiver, number 13. It's one of those two. That is what they're going to do. So Stanford calls timeout. Okay, fine. They want to draw up a play. Cool. They align. And then Fran Brown calls timeout. So now Stanford has called timeout. Syracuse has called timeout. You've had 2 chances to talk this play over. And we all know what Stanford's going to do. We all know it. What does Syracuse do on defense on that final 4th down play with 37 seconds left from the 45-yard line? They rush 3, so they get no pressure on Aston Daniels, which for the first few plays in that drive, they were pressuring him, they were blitzing him, and it was working. So they get no pressure because they rushed 3. And they leave Elic Ayomanor one-on-one on Clarence Lewis. And with all due respect to Clarence Lewis, he had pretty good coverage. But at the end of the day, as I talked about in the lead up to this game on this podcast, Elic Ayomanor is an NFL wide receiver. Okay? He can single-handedly beat you. He can. He has shown it. He had 13 catches for 294 yards and 3 touchdowns against Colorado last season. You leave him one-on-one and you get no pressure on the quarterback because you rush 3. When does that work? Please tell me when that works. Unbelievable. I'm sorry that I am raising my voice. I'm sorry if you're watching with headphones. And if you are new to this podcast, I wish you could have found this podcast on better terms for Syracuse, but I would like to welcome you. Unbelievable. That's poor coaching. You don't double team him. You don't blitz to try to get him to Aston Daniels to throw the ball quickly. He had been inaccurate all night. So many times, inaccurate throw. Nope. Rush 3, one-on-one with Elic Ayomanor. Easy pitch and catch. Stanford kicks the winning field goal. They beat Syracuse 26-24. Let's talk about the start of this game. The start of the game. You ready for this? Syracuse was coming off a bye. All right, we might be a little bit rusty. Well, Stanford's also coming off a bye. So really, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Both teams are coming off a bye. And by the way, Stanford has to travel from California to Syracuse. Okay? Over 2,000, 3,000 miles to play this game. That's what they had to do. They're not even playing in the right time zone for them. It's 8:15 p.m. at the time I am recording this for Stanford. I'm recording this at 11:15 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. In the first quarter, Syracuse was outgained 133-27. Just totally not ready to play. Totally not ready to play. We talked about, again, a little precursor for Elic Ayomanor, by the way. He was wide open in the beginning of this game for a 50, 60-yard touchdown, but Aston Daniels missed him. He missed him. He wasn't double covered. And then, eventually, Stanford's first touchdown of the game is once again one-on-one with Elic Ayomanor. And Aston Daniels made a poor throw on it, but it didn't even matter. Because Elic Ayomanor is that good. He is him. So Syracuse from the get-go was not ready to play this game. Penalties were killer for Syracuse in this one. Killer. Stanford was up 7-0 in this game. They get the ball back at some point in the first or the second quarter. I don't remember exactly when it was. And Syracuse forces a 3-and-out. The defense finally steps up, but nope. Kevin Jobity roughing the passer. Was it a great call? Probably wasn't. But you know what? It was called. I got to take it for what it was. They called that roughing the passer. It's roughing the passer. We got to deal with it. I'm not here going to blame officials for that game. It wasn't the officials that lost that game. It was Syracuse that lost that game. It was this coaching staff that lost this game. Oronde Gadsden had a 15-yard late hit penalty off a punt. What's he doing in the game on punt coverage? Or on punt returning, whatever it was. It was punt coverage. That's what it was. Punt coverage. Oronde Gadsden had a holding penalty in this game, which took away what would have been a 50-yard catch for Umari Hatcher, who had a very good game today or tonight, would have set Syracuse up inside the 5-10-yard line of Stanford in the third quarter. On that drive, by the way, Stanford then gets a pick six. A lot of things went wrong in this one. You can blame Gadsden. You can blame the offensive line for how bad they played. The run game. Did Syracuse try to run the ball at all? I feel like they didn't try to run the ball on first down. We look like Florida State out here on offense. Overall, they just weren't ready to play. And that's a reflection of coaching. Penalties. Undisciplined. Normally, I am more organized with these podcasts. We go segment by segment. We talk about this. We talk about that. It's hard to do that right now after a loss like this. Syracuse was rightfully favored in this game. They have the more talented team on paper, but they weren't ready to play. They weren't ready. And it's a shame because at the end of the day, after all that, they were still one play away from winning. After all of that, Syracuse had negative rushing yards in the first half too. Negative 13 rushing yards in the first half. There was just like nothing that went right. You know what they got? They got trapped. They got trapped. It's not going to be fun being on ACC squad this week, but I'll take my lumps. I get it. I got to celebrate the wins, and I also got to take the losses. Congrats to Stanford. They were the better team. Now coming up, we'll talk about Kyle McCord, who was up and down, but in my opinion, I don't think he was the least of Syracuse's problems tonight. So we'll talk about him after this. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. So Syracuse loses to Stanford 26-24 in the Dome as a favorite. 2-0, now 2-1. Obviously, we just hit on the fact that this team just wasn't ready to play. They weren't ready, but let's talk about Kyle McCord. I can pull up the numbers here. Normally, I write them down. Normally, what I do is I take notes on my phone. I put it on airplane mode so I have no distractions while I'm recording. But for this, I need to look at the numbers. I need to look at this. I need to see what some people are saying. Kyle McCord in this game, 27 of 42, 339. So his third straight 300-yard game. He had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And he also had a rushing touchdown of 19 yards. And get this, He still finished with -8 rushing yards in the game. Kyle McCord was the least of Syracuse's problems tonight. Did he have his best game? No. I thought he was a little bit off in the beginning. The timing seemed a little weird with the receivers. I get it. There was no Zeke Haynes. Still not an excuse, but, he's a big part of the offense. So I thought in the beginning maybe he was a little off, but other than that, he didn't quit. I don't think the team quit. But I thought he played a pretty good game. The pick six, we could talk about the pick six in the third quarter. I mean, it made it a 2-score game for Stanford. It made it 20-10. That was on Dan Villari. There was some sort of miscommunication on that. It didn't look like Villari was looking for the ball. What a liability he has become. Jeez. So that wasn't on Kyle McCord, that pick six. Now, the second pick, you got me. The second interception that Kyle McCord threw, that was on him. I don't know what he was thinking. He was trying to throw an out and up to his receiver, but he underthrew the ball, and the defensive back for Stanford looked like he was playing wide receiver. That's how bad of a pick it was, and what made it worse was the fact that LaQuinn Allen was wide open in the right flat, and it was a first down play. It was in the fourth quarter too. There was no reason for him to force that ball. But at the end of the day, he responded each time. He responded. Even the pick six wasn't his fault. But guess what? After that play, Syracuse goes on a touchdown drive. That's when Kyle McCord turned into Josh Allen for a play and had a 19-yard touchdown run where he Supermaned himself into the right pylon of the end zone. He didn't quit there. And then after he threw the pick, he gets the ball back in the fourth quarter, and he gives Syracuse the first lead of the game. He was heroic on the drive. Syracuse was facing a 3rd and 18. But he rolled to his right. He was really calm. He found his open receiver, Darryl Gill, who had a very solid day. I thought the receivers, for the most part, they stepped up without Zeke Haynes. I'll get to the numbers in a second, but Kyle McCord found him. He found Darryl Gill open, a soft spot in the zone, and then he hits Jackson Meeks for a touchdown on a slant route. That was the last play that Syracuse ran in the game. That was the last one they ran. But the receivers in this game, I mean, Trebor Pena, I guess he's a bright spot. He continues to impress. He had 10 catches, over 100 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, but 10 catches for over 100 yards, you can't complain. Umari Hatcher made a big play at the end of the first half. He had 3 catches, 84 yards, and obviously a touchdown as well. That 67-yard bomb that made it 13-10 at the end of the first half. Darryl Gill, who had that catch on that 3rd and 18, 4 catches, 55 yards. The receivers did their job. The one guy that was really missing was Oronde Gadsden, who had 2 catches for 12 yards. Oronde Gadsden had the same number of catches as he did penalties. And this is supposed to be an all-American caliber tight end. Syracuse's #1 NFL draft prospect. But it seemed like after his late hit penalty, what happened to him? I don't know. He was MIA. Did Syracuse target him enough? He only got, I believe, 5 targets in the game. Maybe they should have targeted him more. And 2 catches for 12 yards from your All-American tight end is not acceptable. So, yeah, Kyle McCord, back on topic to him, he had help mostly from his receivers. They did a good job stepping up. He did not get a lot from his run game. His run game was pathetic, but it's also because the coaching staff just, for whatever reason, didn't try to run the ball. It's not like Syracuse was losing this game by 20 points and they had to go air raid. They just decided to go air raid regardless. I don't get it. What were they thinking? Like, look, I get it. It's not like our running backs finished with that much efficiency, but if you look at Syracuse's running backs, LaQuinn Allen and Yassine Willis had 12 total carries in the game. And I get it. It only went for 34 yards, but you're just not trying. You're not even trying to run the ball. Did Stanford stop it? When they had the opportunity to stop it, they did. But Syracuse didn't try enough. Kyle McCord had to throw the ball 42 times. You would think they were losing this game by 17 the whole game, but they weren't. I didn't understand it. It's depressing because we all had high hopes for this team. We had high hopes after week 2, especially when they beat Georgia Tech. They're pretty good, I think. I don't know. They play against Louisville this weekend, so we'll see how they fare in that one. That's actually my upset special pick of the week. But what do I know, considering I thought that Syracuse would blow out Stanford? I was wrong. You're going to be wrong sometimes. Now, as far as Zeed Haynes, just for some housekeeping, I haven't listened to the press conference yet because, quite frankly, I literally sat down to record this as soon as the game ended. Zeed Haynes, it was announced, I believe, from Emily Liker on Twitter, that he was not at the game. He missed it due to personal reasons. It was not disciplinary. So when I have an update on that, I'll certainly share it out as far as what Fran Brown says. Deion Wilson did not play, the best run defender on the team. Boy, Syracuse could have used him. He didn't play. Marcellus Barnes, he got hurt in the first quarter, did not return. He got hurt off a run play, kind of got drilled. I don't know exactly what the injury is, but he was knocked out of the game. So that's some. Justice Ross Simmons, I did see him on the field at times, but he didn't record a catch. So they're clearly just trying to ease him back in. He's coming off that hamstring injury. I did say that if he's not 100%, don't play him. Unbelievable. They lost to Stanford. I don't know. We'll break it more down in a less maybe emotional way than I am right now as we go on throughout the week. Talk about really what went wrong in this game, give maybe more thorough analysis. But, Syracuse fans, I want to hear from you what your thoughts are on this game. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Syracuse loses 26-24, a just embarrassing loss. I was hoping it wasn't a trap game. It was certainly a trap game. Now, I teased at the beginning of this podcast that we'll talk about the road ahead for Syracuse football. Is the season over? What is Syracuse still playing for? Well, we'll talk about it right after this. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you now through September 22nd, so that's either 1 or 2 days at the time that I am recording this. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. And Syracuse football, I don't think FanDuel has released the odds for their game against Holy Cross yet. They probably should win that one, though. Hopefully. But in this game against Stanford, Syracuse was an 8.5-point favorite. They didn't get it done, and the Orange's money line was minus 320. Evidently, Stanford won the game 26-24. It is what it is. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to download America's #1 sportsbook. So the road ahead for Syracuse football after an embarrassing 26-24 loss at home to Stanford, one of the bottom feeders in the ACC, but it's still a game within your own conference. You got to take them seriously, and Syracuse didn't come ready to play. So what's the road ahead? Well, the Orange are 2-1. They are now 1-1 in conference play this season. As far as the overall outlook, I don't want to say the season is over. I don't want to give that knee-jerk reaction like the season is over. Because you got to define that to me. What is the season? what defines success? Leave a comment in the comment section below. What now would constitute as a successful season of Syracuse football for you? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Contending in the ACC, as far as making the ACC championship game, I would say that's pretty much out the window. That I don't think that this team has much of a chance to do it. I mean, maybe they prove me wrong, but they would essentially have to run the table within their own conference, finish 7-1 to get there, probably face Miami. I do not think they will do that. Maybe I'm wrong. I was certainly wrong about this game. So that essentially would eliminate them from the college football playoff. But that's why I say to you, what constitutes the season being over? Can this Syracuse team pull it together and still make a bowl? Sure. I think they can. They got Holy Cross this Saturday coming up, so that's a win. They'll win that game. I hope. They'll win that one. They got UConn. That's the second last game of the season. That's a home one. They should beat UConn at home, I would think. So that gives you 4 wins, and now you just got to find 2 more to make a bowl game, which would give Syracuse its 3rd consecutive bowl. So in the essence of making a bowl game, the season is not over. There is still plenty to play for in that regard. You can say what you want about how a bowl game is meaningless, and there's some truth to it, but there's also the fact that playing that 13 game is an accomplishment in itself. It's an accomplishment that you earn. I don't know where the wins are going to come from aside from the 2 that I mentioned with Holy Cross and UConn. They got to play a lot better than they did tonight against Stanford to get those 2 extra wins, because let me tell you, October 4th, you're going to UNLV on the road, one of the better group of 5 teams in the country. That's a team that's looking to play in the college football playoff to represent the group of 5. We'll see how NC State will fare against Clemson this weekend. They're playing a true freshman quarterback. That could be a toss-up game, but you're going on the road. I mean, at Pitt is not going to be easy. Virginia Tech at home, well, you just lost to Stanford at home. At Boston College. At Cal, like Miami. I don't know. You gotta find 2 more wins. You got to find 2 more there. So it's not over from making a bowl game perspective. If that's the prism you're looking at, can Syracuse still reach 6 wins this season? They can. Maybe they can still get to 7. Maybe they shock the world and they get to 8 wins. Maybe they do. But as far as can this team have an outside chance of making the college football playoff? Can this team be one of the dark horses to represent the ACC in the conference championship game alongside probably Miami? The answer is no. That's out the window. Unless this team goes on a magical run, that's done. But they can still make a bowl game. So that is the road ahead for Syracuse football. All they can really do as a team is learn from this. This is a first-year head coach and Fran Brown. And I know I destroyed him in the beginning of this podcast, but he's still new. And we're going to have growing pains with a new head coach. So hopefully they can get it together. It's not going to matter much next week against Holy Cross, but maybe that's what they need. Maybe they need a game like Holy Cross to feel good about themselves again. And then let's really see how they play at UNLV on Friday night, October 4th in Vegas. We'll see how they do then. Because I think after that UNLV game, we can maybe get a better read of this team. Was the Stanford game a fluke game? Was it more of the same? That's when we'll get more of a true read on this team. So UNLV on October 4th. If they win that game and they look convincing in a dominant fashion, then, I'm not going to sit here and say they'll contend for the ACC, but maybe they can make a really good bowl game, win 8-9 games. But for now, it's just a tough loss. And yeah, that's about it. I would like to thank you all for watching this podcast, listening to this podcast. I'm Jackson Holzer, Locked On Syracuse here. If you like it, please hit that like button. And if you really liked it, hit that subscribe button. Tell all your friends, all your Syracuse friends. If you are a fan of another team and you're watching this, you can feel free to laugh at me and all my takes that I make leading up to this game. I genuinely thought that Syracuse was going to come out really strong and that they were going to beat an inferior Stanford team. They didn't. I have to own it. I was wrong. So, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And everyone, take care.